Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we're going to be talking about Hedera Hashgraph, or HBAR, if you will. This has been an asset that I've been talking about for literally like almost a year now. And when I talk about a year now, it's basically January is when I first started talking about Hedera Hashgraph on my Twitter. Now, in regards to Hedera Hashgraph, listen, I wasn't, early in regards to 2020 investing, but overall, I'm still fairly early into Hedera Hashgraph from the ground floor. It doesn't mean that I'm gloating. It just means that I have researched this asset pretty much day in, day out, spent days to weeks researching this asset as well to know pretty much almost everything that I possibly can about what Hedera Hashgraph is going to be doing, especially for the future of finance, even in regards to gaming, retail, healthcare, all that kind of stuff. So when I get asked questions, I pretty much answer almost every single question that I can see about Hedera Hashgraph. But there's one that always stands out that I fail to always, even regard, because it's just one of those questions that I just don't care to answer because it's very simple and it's very easy to understand why. But I'm not going to say that it's a bad question. I just think that for what it is worth, you could easily find the answers to it if you did the research or even searched it up. So overall, the question or the concern, and I really kind of blame other YouTubers like Coin Bureau for this because a lot of people are kind of straying away from Hedera Hashgraph because of this aspect, but it's the tokenomics of it, right? The 50 billion total supply, the 10.29 billion in circulating supply at 21% out in the open. Now, a lot of people think, well, listen, the rest of that is owned by the CEOs and they're dumping, blah, blah, blah. Realistically speaking, Mance and Lehman barely own much of the circulating supply. We're actually going to be talking about that and addressing that as well. So overall, when we're talking about Hedera Hashgraph, another call for concern, or FUD, comes up, and that is the idea of patent technology. First off, anybody who says that patent technology is a bad thing, and this goes back to Cardano's CEO, Charles Hoskinson, is an absolute idiot, right? And when we're talking about that, it's the idea that, listen, if you have something that's revolutionary technology, I understand that smart contracts isn't that revolutionary from the ADA standpoint because that's pretty much their only use case. But when we're talking about Hedera Hashgraph for what it is going to be utilized for, that is some massive grade technology that they would obviously want patented, right? Nobody wants to see Hedera Hashgraph forks showing up all over the place because that pretty much tells you, listen, anything could be Hedera Hashgraph at that point. But what makes Hedera Hashgraph so incredibly, different from any other project out there is the aspect of it, one, being patent technology, but also two, okay, being asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerant. And that is the highest grade security that you could possibly get. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about this. Let's stop playing games. First off, this comment comes from this individual here who asked me, Nick, just please talk more to tokenomics and the 50 billion HBAR supply. Considering the fact that they asked very nicely, I said, why not? Let's get into it. So overall, a very quick search, like I said, you could have found this. Now, this goes back 2 years ago to September 3rd, 2019. This has come from Mance Harmon, who is the CEO and co-founder of Hedera Hashgraph, as you guys already know. And he's saying, and we could actually read this a little bit, he's saying, our aim at Hedera is to provide a stable, trustworthy platform for all developers to build decentralized enterprise-grade applications. Like all public DLT platforms, Hedera needs a digital asset to function. Hedera's HBAR is vital to the operation of the platform and serves two key purposes. To one, secure the network against cyber attacks through Hedera's coin-weighted proof-of-stake consensus mechanism, and also to be the fuel that incentivizes and pays for the computing resources necessary to make it all work. He says that they're pleased to announce that they are going to share the white paper that provides a deep dive into tokenomics, and I'm going to be doing that as well. The paper describes how HBARs are used on the Hedera platform and the expected distribution of Hedera's fixed supply of 50 billion HBARs. This distribution aims to support the stable and orderly growth of the platform, so that it can reach scale without sacrificing safety. Our team is hard at work focused on the exciting milestone of open access on September 16th. Of course, they're talking about just kind of the overall launch of it as well. So overall, okay, I'm just going to sum it up for you. The reason why there has to be 50 billion out there, the reason why there is such a high amount of HBARs in circulation, okay, is because they need to run everything on HBAR. If you guys come over here to the use cases, you could see how many use cases there are. We have the Hedera token service as well, the consensus service. All of this stuff needs to be powered by a vast amount of HBAR, especially considering the fact that one HBAR is roughly, if you take the overall fee, all right, and you do, I think it's like 1.4 billion in transaction volume that they already have, right? So when we're talking about, or I think it's like 1.6 billion now, I'm pretty sure. I haven't really looked at it, to be completely honest with you, in a while. But when we're talking about what that is in terms of USD, that's only $160,000. Okay, so when we're talking about the allocation, when we're talking about how much is actually out there, it needs to power this entire network. This network is absolutely massive, and when we're talking about 50 billion, there's other coins in the top 10 that have well more than that in circulating supply. I mean, just from an overall standpoint, ADA has 32 billion. When we're talking about XRP, it has 46.7 billion. We even see, Dogecoin, 131.4 billion. A lot of these assets in this space, I understand that Dogecoin is whatever, but we also talk about other assets in the space. When we have these massive amounts of circulating supply, it's to power the network. It's to power all the products on that network. HBAR needs to have a high circulating supply and also a high supply in general, because without it, the network will sacrifice a lot of efficiency. Also, when we're talking about the tokenomics, we also talk about the security aspect of the network. You can read that up here, right? They don't want somebody to own 1/3 of the network's total supply. First off, I don't think that anybody's going to be able to own 1/3 of the supply now, because if you actually took the math, it's like about roughly 16.7 billion of the total supply, and even at the current level, that's roughly $6 billion. So I don't think that anybody's going to be buying that much HBAR just currently, or at least at the current prices. Of course, when we're talking about this, though, that is why they are releasing it, just a fixed supply over the next 5 years, or by 2025. Okay, and how much will actually be out there in regards to circulating supply or total supply? Well, first off, here's the distribution schedule, right? So in September, all right, the total supply that they released is roughly 262 million. Now, I've been talking to you guys about that number for a very long time. Now, in regards to 262 million, okay, how long would it have to take for, each year, that's roughly about 3.1 billion. But they're not going to do that every single year. They already said that. And you can see the breakdown as well for it and all that, kind of good stuff if you want to really kind of read about it. But overall, when we're talking about this, we even see, why do they hold that much? Well, they're obviously talking about the security aspect as well as for the entire network to protect it from an attack. They also anticipate that the release supply of HBARs will remain below 10% of the total supply for the first year, which they did, and below 33% for the total supply for 4 to 5 years. So when we're talking about that, they're not going to continuously release 262 million, all right? Because 33% for the 4 to 5 year aspect after the first year. So we could say for the next 5 or 40 year, that's 2024 to 2025. So it will be under 33%. So let's go back to Hedera Hashgraph. It will be under 33% until 2024 or 2025. So we won't have too much circulating supply out there until after that. Now, of course, I'm not sure if this has changed or not, because even when we talk about the overall supply, they're saying by 2025, 34% will be out there. Who knows? It is what it is. But when we're talking about 2021, they were saying that 18% will be released. This is all estimated, by the way. So, of course, this could change drastically a little bit. And right now, they do have about 21%, which makes sense. I mean, it's only around roughly 3%. But we do see by 2022, 23%. We could estimate that to about 25%. 2023, 27%. We could estimate that to about 30%. 2024, roughly about 33% will be out there in circulating supply. So overall, by 2024, we'll probably see about 33% out there. 2025, we'll probably see around 36%. And then after that, the rest of the supply will stretch to about 2035 in terms of the year that we will see the total supply out there. But overall, you can see the breakdown of the tokenomics. And it's really not that bad in terms of how much, Swirls holds, in terms of the executives and so forth. Like, even the founders only hold roughly about 4.9 billion, and that's going to be the total through 2025. So overall, at the current level, they only hold roughly, if we take the total, I don't know if they have the total here, but we could pretty much just add 9.6 million to 68 to 910, so roughly about over, it's like 1.3 billion or so, a little bit over that, and then we could obviously see the numbers here. So in regards to the tokenomics, they do have that on here now. They actually pretty much updated this, which I thought was pretty cool to see. But we do see Swirls, who is the founding company, which is Lehman's company, I should say, is roughly about almost 4 billion, okay? We see employees and service providers at roughly 2.2 billion, which is only 4.4%, 8% from Swirls, 13.8% from the founders and early executives at about 6.9 billion. Purchase agreements, almost 7 billion. We see ecosystem development is 24% at around 11.9 billion, almost 12 billion. And we do see 32.4% Hedera pre-minted treasury at about 16.2 billion. So the treasury is holding a lot of supply. Why? Well, it's very simple. It needs to power the entire network. It also needs to power all the products and the dApps that are already built on Hedera Hashgraph. And if you guys already know, they have a ton of dApps and a ton of products already live on Hedera Hashgraph. So when we're talking about these tokenomics, when we're talking about what is happening in regards to the releases, when we're talking about what is actually out there, well, it's a very, very simple, right? It's the idea that, also, by the way, I just want to clarify that when we're talking about these percentages, I believe that these percentages are already, it's what is going to always be held by those individuals, I think, or so I believe, because we see Swirls at 3.9, almost 4 billion. We actually see one-time allocation per the MLA for Swirls, 2.5 billion retained by Swirls is about roughly 1 billion as well. So overall, when we're talking about that, I think that a lot of the supply is already out there in regards to that aspect, but also we see a lot of the tokenomics being released over that span just to protect the network in terms of cyber attacks, also for security aspects. They want to make sure that the network and the token itself is at the highest grade of security for everything in regards to network protection, in regards to asset protection as well. That is why it is asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerant compliant ABFT, the only one of its kind. That is why it is, guess what? Charles Hoskinson. That is why it's patent technology. So for anybody who is concerned about the tokenomics of Hedera Hashgraph, I wouldn't be. This is just to protect, it's not only to protect the network and it's to protect, the asset in general, but also think about it like this. You cannot be rug pulled. Listen, whales that hold a significant amount, yeah, sure, they could, fluctuate the coin here and there. But the good news is that there's not going to be a large amount of people holding a large key significant piece of the pie, which is also very good for the long-term view. And it also allows for more enterprises to choose HBAR over a lot of other assets when we see, 40% being held by one wallet or so. So I think that that's incredible to see. Yeah, sure. Tokenomics from a standpoint, a lot of people could make the argument that it is FUD, that it is bad, but it's actually very good for the network to, one, run efficiently, to fuel the entire network, to fuel all the dApps, to fuel all the use cases, to fuel all the projects that are already built on it, and also to protect the entire network and also all of the developers and the projects that are already built on the network. So overall, just to answer your question, the 50 billion HBAR supply is not too alarming at all. It's actually not bad at all in regards to the overall prices as well. Just to give you guys a quick note, okay, 50 billion at $100 is still only $5 trillion. And don't say, I know that a lot of people are going to say, only $5 trillion? Yes, only $5 trillion. For what Hedera Hashgraph is doing, I think that we could easily see a $5 trillion market cap by 2025 at least. So with that being said, I hope that that pretty much summed up the tokenomics, also some of the FUD that's out there as well. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe to notifications on. If you guys don't want free content, you guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. As always, I hope that you all have a beautiful day or a beautiful night, wherever you guys are in this beautiful world. This has been Nick. Peace out, guys.